Hey guys, just a reminder, this is not official medical advice or such. Please seek an appointment with a licensed medical provider.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Explain This. I'm with the star of the show, Robin Riddle. Robin, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm kind of excited about this episode because it's like a, what do you call it, like a hot topic?
Yes.
Is that like a word?
Yes.
It's a hot topic. We're talking about heavy metals. And in our world, you almost can't go a day without hearing about it. A lot of patients I know talk to you about it in office. Can you please talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old about heavy metals?
Okay.
What are they?
So heavy metals are different types of metal that we are exposed to in our everyday life. People kind of freak out about heavy metals, but the thing is, truly, there's no way to avoid them. You'd have to live in a bubble to avoid exposure to any heavy metals. So it's going to happen. So lead, for example, is one of the big ones that I see often. I see this very frequently in my police officers, military personnel, gun enthusiasts, because bullets have lead in them. Every time that you discharge a firearm, there's a little puff of lead that comes up and you breathe it in. We see aluminum in our deodorants. You shouldn't be using one that has aluminum in it, but a lot of people do. We see mercury that's in our fish and seafood. Weirdly enough, arsenic is one that people are very commonly exposed to. It's very commonly found in rice, actually. A lot of our green leafy veggies have high levels of heavy metals in them. So we're exposed constantly. We think that we're doing something good, and it still could have heavy metals in it. So it's not the objective in our practice is not to avoid all heavy metals. Of course, reduce what you can, but you're not going to be able to avoid them. The objective is to help your body detox them. And so where we really run into the issues with heavy metals is if your body can't get rid of them. So either we're exposed to too much at one time or just too much over a long period of time, and the body can no longer move them out the way that it should be able to.
So I'm almost thinking of it kind of like waste, like you have to have a bowel movement in order to get rid of waste.
Yeah.
Is it kind of similar?
Yeah, absolutely. And so toxins in general can build up in the body much easier if we're not having regular bowel movements. So that's why we always talk to our patients about gut health, because it is so important. That is how the body detoxes. Heavy metals are often carried out through the urine. And so making sure that the kidneys are filtering well, that we're drinking plenty of water, just keeping those detox pathways open. But usually whenever I end up talking about heavy metals with patients, it's because we're having issues. And so it's usually very kind of random, obscure things that we wouldn't realize are coming from heavy metals. But when we're not finding the answers anywhere else, that's one of the things that I start looking at. So chronic fatigue is a big one. We've gone through the whole workup. Hormones are optimized, thyroid's optimized, everything looks good, and we still have a patient that just chronically is tired. Heavy metals is one of the things I'm thinking about. Weird cancers. Heavy metals can actually be a big culprit behind cancers. I've had several patients that heavy metal has been the culprit behind having multiple cancers, or just kind of some random obscure cancers that are just not super common. Low hormone levels, low thyroid function, all of those actually can originate from heavy metal exposure. Infertility. I always try to bring fertility into every talk that we have. Infertility can actually be linked as well. So there's a lot of things that can happen because of heavy metals in the body.
So what I'm hearing is that we're all exposed. It's really just a matter of who is able to get rid of the heavy metals that they're exposed to.
Yeah.
And so the amount of heavy metals you have in your body matters.
Absolutely.
Okay. So is there a test?
There is. So it's a little complicated, so I'll kind of walk through it slow here. But whenever...
Remember, I'm 5.
5-year-old. Okay. So whenever we're wanting to test for heavy metals, we actually have to do the same test twice. Because we want to see, does your body have heavy metals that it can get rid of on its own? And does your body have heavy metals that it can't get rid of on its own? So this testing is called provoked and unprovoked. So I always start with an unprovoked test, meaning we just collect a urine sample at random, usually first thing in the morning, and it's sent off to the lab for analysis. Looking at that urine, we establish kind of what your baseline is of what you're getting rid of. Now, I have patients like avoid eating seafood for a couple of days prior, not a ton of rice, like avoid food sources that we know could have it in there, because if you eat, shellfish and rice the night before, your mercury and your arsenic levels may be high, but that's your body's just getting rid of what you ate the night before. So for an unprovoked test, random urine sample, one-time collection gets sent off for analysis. Then we do what's called a provoked test. And when we are provoking, we are trying to pull those heavy metals out of the body. Because when your body has too many heavy metals, it will store them. It doesn't want it circulating in the bloodstream. This is why I don't even do a blood test, because blood tests are almost always going to be normal unless you have had like acute toxicity, like a kid eating lead-based paint. They're going to have high lead in their bloodstream because they've eaten lead-based paint. But 10 years down the road, they could still have that lead in their body, but it's not going to be in their bloodstream anymore. The body puts it out into the tissues. So it will store heavy metals wherever it wants to. The muscles, the bones, the brain, wherever it sees fit is where it puts those heavy metals. And depending on where it deposits them, that determines what kind of issues that we will have from it. So with a provoked test, we're giving a medication that pulls those heavy metals out of the tissues, puts them back into the bloodstream, the body circulates it out, gets rid of it in the urine. So with a provoked test, we can do either oral provocation or IV. Now, in this clinic right now, we do not do IV, but it is something that we are considering bringing in the future. It's a stronger way to pull these metals out. So right now, my protocol is an oral chelation. So we're using a substance called EDTA, and we take a couple of days worth of oral EDTA. Then after the last dose of the EDTA, urine is collected for 6 hours straight. Out of that 6 hours of urine, you pour off one sample that gets sent for analysis, and that's looking to see, once we provoked the body, what did it get rid of? And we compare the two.
And the way I'm understanding it is you want that number to be high because you're testing your body's ability to get rid of it.
No, we do not want that number to be high because that means our body is storing it.
Okay. On the provoked side?
On the provoked. Unprovoked, it is what it is. Like if it's high, maybe we're looking for why it's high. Like what are you being exposed to that has your body getting rid of lead right now? But the provoked is the one that really shows us the issue.
Okay.
And the big issue is if we're low on the unprovoked and we're high on the provoked, that means your body is storing all of those heavy metals.
Interesting. So if it's low, unprovoked, and then if we're trying to, using a chelator, and you're getting rid of a lot of stuff, that means you're storing it and you need a chelator to get it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, I have a patient that I've tested previously that prior military, so I knew levels were going to be high. Unprovoked, lead levels were 0. Provoked, lead level was over 15. Wow. Normal should be less than 3.
Wow.
So
he or she just was not getting rid of it.
Yeah, just years and years and years of exposure. Again, prior military. Military is typically shooting firearms very frequently, so I expected lead to be high. His was super high, but like 5 times what it should have been. So he had just stored all that lead in his body, and it was causing issues. And so he just was not able to get rid of it. Seeing the comparison between the provoked and the unprovoked is what showed me that there was a major issue there.
So at that point, you're already using a chelator. Is there anything else you do, or is that the treatment? Is just the chelator?
The chelator is the treatment, but it's not a one-time treatment. And that's why heavy metals can get complicated. So there are practices, again, we're considering bringing this on in the future, but there are a couple of practices local here to Knoxville, and I'm sure in other areas as well, that do chelation therapy, IV chelation therapy. IV is going to be your most potent way to pull this out of the body. And so that involves doing an IV treatment that usually is either 1.5 to 3 grams of EDTA. Disodium is the one that I've been trained with previously, but it's a chelating agent that we give through the IV. Standard is going to be about 10 treatments at the 3 grams before we retest to see where the heavy metal levels lie at that point. Because every single time that you chelate, you're going to pull those metals out. The body's going to get rid of a certain amount of them because it binds it to the EDTA, which pulls it out through the urine. But the body isn't going to be able to get rid of everything that you've pulled out that time. So some of it's going to go back in. We do another treatment. We pull some out. We get rid of it. And it's just this, we've just got to slowly titrate the levels down until we get them back into a safe and healthy range. So it can be a drawn out process.
So theoretically, you're measuring the urine sample, and those numbers should be going down.
Yes.
As you're chelating.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And so we tend to focus in on one metal. So like that patient, for example, lead was insanely high. The EDTA was only pulling lead at that point because the EDTA loves lead. It has certain metals that it likes more than others. As we treated him and his lead levels started to fall, other metals actually started to show up. So like uranium started to show up that had not been there before. Well, we hadn't seen it before. It was there, it was in the body, but the body wasn't releasing that one because it had so much lead to release first. So as you get rid of one, sometimes you start to see another one come up. And again, that's why this can be a long process, because you get one down, another pops up, you get that one down, then another one can pop up, and we just kind of keep on going down the list until we clear them out.
Have you noticed like symptoms getting better as you kind of say you get a lot of the lead out, but then you find uranium? Are they starting to improve symptomatically, even though there's still stuff in there?
Typically, yes.
Okay.
Now, patients don't feel good during chelation. So I've worked in a practice before where we actually did IV chelation, so I do have a lot of experience with that. And those patients typically would come for their treatment and then they're down for the rest of the day. It's like some of them even had to bring a driver because they felt so off. A lot of patients tell me they feel almost drunk, like kind of dizzy, swimmy headed. People will get really, really tired. Some people can get nauseated with it. And it's just the effect of pulling those metals out. Like you're hitting your body with a lot that it's got to get rid of at once. So it can be a not so pleasant process. But recovery is pretty quick on that. You know, they sleep it off. By the next day, you feel pretty good. And I do see patients start to feel better as you get through these treatments.
Now, with the oral EDTA, I'm assuming, is there any side effects that would be similar to an IV chelation?
Typically, no. So I don't do the oral for long-term chelation. We're only using it for the provocation process, and most people don't feel anything off of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's just at the beginning for the testing.
Yeah.
Period. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Super interesting, Robin. When I hear heavy metals, I think of IV chelation. Is there anything else I should be thinking of when, we hear that term, in this functional medicine world?
Yeah, well, I mean, in general, when we hear heavy metals, of course, everybody freaks out and wants to know, again, how to stay away from them. So as we kind of dive into metals more, I am going to do some more podcasts on getting more specific about what food sources we should stay away from. Like that could be issues, certain products that we, put on our skin, use in our hair, things like that that we can do, filtered water, things that we can do that are actionable changes that can help reduce our exposures. From the functional medicine standpoint, obviously, root cause is always what we want to get to. If we can figure out where you've gotten the heavy metals from and avoid that, that's always going to be awesome. But in general, the big piece of it is if we figure out that you have them, working out a plan for how to get them out of the body so that we don't have long-term effects that come from that.
Super interesting topic, Robin. Thank you so much for one, you dumbed this down for me really well, so I really appreciate that. One last question, and this is totally selfish. Actually, this is very selfish and has nothing really to do with this podcast episode, but it might help someone else. You said filtered water. I'm in the market for a filter. Any suggestions for me?
So a lot of people love the Berkeley Life, which is a countertop one. Personally, I just invested in a really good triple filtration system that attaches to my water line underneath my sink. Okay. And so it filters out metals, toxins, fluoride, chlorine. Fluoride's a really big one. I need to do a podcast on that too. Fluoride is a really big one. It's a neurotoxin. We do not want it in our water sources, but it's added to all water. So we want a filter that's going to filter that out for us. Some people will go to the effort of doing like a whole reverse osmosis and put that whole filtration system on their house, or just put it like at the tap. And reverse osmosis water is great. It's going to filter out everything. But if you are drinking RO water, it does filter out all the beneficial minerals that we need as well. So I typically tell patients, if you're going to go that route, great. We need to use something like trace minerals to add some of those minerals back in so we don't get depleted in minerals. Because we do need those. We need that actually there for the cells to hydrate well.
Is there any like, what do you call it? It's like a, not a dispenser, but like a water bottle that you just pour into a cup that you like clearly filtered?
So as long as it's not plastic, I'm good with those. I don't suggest those because most of them are plastic. Okay. There are a couple of like water bottles. I can't remember the brand off the top of my head now, but there is a water bottle that has a filter in the like straw. And so it's replaceable. And so you can just fill your bottle with whatever water and the straw will filter it as you drink it. But again, as long as it's a glass or stainless steel bottle, stainless steel product, that's fine.
Interesting.
What is it? The Pure Life or whatever. I don't remember the Brita jugs. Yep. It's plastic. And we got to stay away from plastic. So it may be filtering your water for you, but then it's just adding back microplastics to your water. So defeats the purpose. Don't do it.
I'm getting rid of my Brita. That's actually why I asked. I have a Brita, and I know it's not that great, so I need to change it up.
Yeah, triple filtration system. Attach it to your water. You just turn on your cold water on your sink, and you have filtered water that comes out.
Amazing. Robin Riddle, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we will see y'all next time.
Don't go away.